Mounce, BBG, chapter 24, sentence 6. Starting with an and, of course, but then you jump into this verb, which hopefully you recognize before too long. That's you're dealing with something that is like peruamai, right? But then you've got this augment, so then you're saying, okay, some kind of secondary tense. And theta is not a normal part of peruamai, which tells you that when you see this theta, you should automatically think passive, right? So now thesan, you say, well, okay, what role does this play? Does this tell me that it's a future, or am I dealing with an aorist? Well, it can't be a future if you've got an augment. All right. So your tendency might be to look at this and say that's a future passive part there, but bottom line is that won't work with an augment. So you're dealing with what looks like an aorist passive, but realize that peruamai is basically just one of those deponent things. It's just deponent all the way through the thing. So you're going to translate this actively, even though this is what's called an aorist passive form. The other thing you should see is the son as a third plural ending, right? So if you got a third plural aorist, deponent really, but it's looks like an aorist passive in form, third plural. So you've got and they went, okay, because again you're going to translate it as a deponent. They went. And then you have each one, or each, or castos is sort of this idea of each, but in the absence of anything else, you're going to translate it as each man or each person or each one. Here, of course, the easiest thing to do is just go with each one. Again, with a substantival idea here. So each one, and they went each one to the house of him, right? So ace here, hopefully by now you've realized ace can have all sorts of ideas, for, to, toward, in, into. You have lots of ways, you can play with this, and into would be just fine in this particular context, because you are talking about a house. So and they went each one into his house. Now, each one into his house, really, the idea is that went into his own, everybody went into their own house. So if you were translating that and you wanted to make it smoother in terms of English, we probably would say into his own house. Each one, and they went each one into his own house. So but I probably would put own in parentheses just because it's not technically in the text. All right. So leaving that behind, recognize your post-positive day. You're going to pull that forward, and while it can be either and or but, really here it's a contrast, so it really does make sense to translate it as but Jesus. And then you have the same kind of thing going on, but no technical ending, so it's third singular, right? So this aorist passive that we're going to do is a deponent. But Jesus went to, and here you can't do into, can you? Because you don't go into the mountain or into the mount, right? So, again, if ace has that kind of diversity that you can play it that way, not a big deal. So, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. Hopefully that part is easy enough. So, and they went each one into his own house, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives.